Konnichiwa. I would like to start saying thank you to Sahaya Yoga Japan for organizing this event and allowing me to be here with you today. So thank you very much. Arigato. My talk has the title The Beauty of Mental Silence. So first we should know what is neuroscience. Neuroscience is the part of the science that is studying the central human nervous system and the brain. Our brain, it's said, that is the most complex system in our universe. We have to keep in mind that in our brain there are around 100 billion neurons. Each neuron has the capacity to communicate with thousands of other neurons. So the complexity is quite huge. So we have different parts of the brain related with different functions that we already know. Things like, for example, we have our auditory cortex. If you are hearing me now, this auditory cortex on your brain is lighting up, is activated. So in neuroscience we have the capacity to measure, to monitor our brain, and this allows us to understand what we are, we as human beings. We see the human evolution. We know that we are standing for more than 3 million of years, using tools and language for more than 1 million years. But this full language with social interaction has been with us for around 50,000 years. The language has enormous repercussion in our daily-to-day life, but has one side effect. And this side effect is that our brain is always on our mind as thoughts. Let me share with you this important research made at the University of Harvard, in which they have 5,000 volunteers from 83 different countries. The idea was very simple. They were sending messages to the smartphones of the volunteers, asking them, what are you doing, how do you feel, and where is your attention? And what they saw is that those volunteers with their attention in the here and now were those who were happier. But most of the volunteers were unhappy, with mind wandering, thinking about the past or thinking about the future. The conclusion, well, the title is remarkable. A wandering mind is an unhappy mind. In conclusion, let me read literally, a human mind is a wandering mind, and a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. The ability to think about what is not happening is a cognitive achievement that comes at an emotional cost. So we have this mind with a lot of capacities, but this wandering most of the time, thinking. So how would we can stop this? Well, the alternative to this wandering mind is this mind that is in mental silence or thoughtless awareness. And this mental silence or thoughtless awareness is when you have your attention in the here and now, in each present moment, because the life is always here and now. Because the past is already gone and the future doesn't exist yet. So we are here always in the present. Life is always in the present, in the here and now. How do we achieve this state of mental silence? So one of the possible solutions is through yoga. Yoga means union. The most ancient treaty of yoga, called the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, says that yoga is the suppression of the modifications of the mind. So when we stop the modification means when we stop thinking. And there is a specific yoga that is called Sahaya Yoga that was founded by Srimati Nirmala Devi in 1970. Sahaya means born with, and yoga means union. It's the union of your awareness with the awareness of the universe. This Sahaya Yoga is based on the classical yoga, in which there are different centers and one very specific energy that is called Kundalini. When this energy crosses through the different centers and nourish our brain, it facilitates this state of mental silence. So let's go a little bit ahead with this mental silence. how this mental silence produces benefits for our mental and physical health. In this research that was made at the University of Sydney, Australia, they compare the mental health status of the Australian population, depicted here on this horizontal yellow line, with the mental health of meditators practicing this Hatha Yoga and mental silence. They were asking meditators many questions about the years practicing meditation, the time they dedicate to meditate every day, the assistance to collective meditation, national, international seminars. But the main data related with the health status was the frequency of achievement of this state of mental silence. If we see here, those meditators reaching this mental silence several times a day had the best mental health. Those reaching one or twice a day they were also having a very good mental health. Even those reaching this mental health one or twice a week had a better mental health than the average population. But there was small groups reaching once or twice a month this mental silence, or almost not reaching at all this mental silence, that they didn't get the benefit of this meditation. And this also allows us to give you as explanation about what is meditation. Meditation is when we are on this specific state of mental silence in which we are in yoga, in the union of our consciousness with the whole, with the universe. So, if you are not reaching this state of mental silence, somehow you are not doing meditation. This state of mental silence through Hatha Yoga has tremendous benefits for many different important sickness. Let's say these are different research. Here is the first author and the year of the publication in peer-reviewed journal with a scientific committee that is assessoring that the research is properly made. So this Hatha Yoga and mental silence has benefits for stress, have proved benefits for stress, depression, anxiety, attention deficit and hyperactive disorder, asthma, cardiac arrhythmia, diabetes, high blood pressure, menopause, and epilepsy, among other things. But let's move to the main topic of my talk today. It's our research done at my University of La Laguna, Spain, about mental silence. We have done our research on this instrument that is a magnetoresonance scanner. And these instruments allow us to monitor the brain from different angles of perspective. We have done 3 different types of research. On the first one, we saw the neuronal activity on this state of mental silence. On the second type of research, we compared the anatomy of practitioners of Hatha Yoga meditation and mental silence with non-meditators. And on the third one, we saw the functional connectivity, means how different parts of the brain cooperate in order to enhance this state of mental silence. On the first research for neuronal activity, we have 19 volunteers practicing Hatha Yoga meditation for more than 3 years, and we asked them to try to be in this state of mental silence inside the magnetoresonance scanner. We asked them to do 3 short meditation, 2 minutes each meditation, and what we saw is depicted on these figures. On the first meditation, there was an increase in activity on these yellow areas that are the frontal and temporal lobe, and we interpret this as an effort in order to suppress, to cancel the noise of thoughts, just to be in silence. There is an effort needed. On the second meditation, this neuronal activity diminished a lot. And on the third meditation, a meditation in which most of meditators say that they reach this state of mental silence, the neuronal activity was concentrated on this area that is called the insula. The insula is a very important part of our brain that allows us what is called interoception. Interoception is the capacity to perceive how you are inside. if you are in harmony or not in harmony, if you are in peace or not. And this perception of your inner being is partly made by this insula. So these results were published on this Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine in 2015. This was the title of the article. And in conclusion, we said that the right insular activation therefore probably reflects an effortless process of attentional contemplation associated with the state of mental silence. So it's an effortless state, but we need an effort to reach this state with the meditation of Sahaja Yoga. So this was the first type of meditation. Let's move to the second type of, the first type of research, and now let's move to the second type of research. In order to follow this research, we should know that our brain, our human brain, has 3 different types of tissue, depending on the aspect of the color. So we have the gray matter, because it has a dark gray color, and these are areas that are mainly on the cortex, on the periphery of our brain, they are part also in the inner brain. We have the white matter, that are white fibers connecting different parts of the brain, and we have the cerebrospinal fluid that are on the holes. The gray matter is quite important because it represents the connections between these thousands of millions of neurons. And this gray matter is changing moment by moment. Let me just to show you a little bit how this gray matter behaves. This research was done with students in 2004, learning to juggle, just to keep the balls in the air. First, they went inside the magnetic resonance scanner without any previous experience learning to juggle. They were practicing every day, an hour, and then after a few weeks they went inside the magnetic resonance scanner. And those areas depicted here in yellow got larger gray matter. And it's also very interesting to know that those areas are the part of the brain that are related with the appreciation of movement through vision. So because you have to know, to perceive where, and to have an idea what the balls are each time, each moment, you need more connections here on those parts of the brain. Also interestingly, after the second time at the scanner, they were asked to stop practicing. And the third time, a few weeks later on, they went inside the magnetic resonance scanner on those same areas that were enlarged with the practicing. After stopping the practicing, they got less gray matter. So this allows us to understand that those parts of the brain that we use more get more connections and behaves a little bit like little muscles. Those parts of the brain that we use more get enlarged because they connect with each other more, and those parts of the brain that we use less get less connection and less gray matter. And to keep your gray matter intact is quite important for your mental health. If you compare a normal healthy brain with a brain with mild Alzheimer's disease or with a brain with severe Alzheimer's disease, you see that the gray matter diminished a lot. And not only in Alzheimer's, but in all mental sickness, there is a correlation with the gray matter volume in different parts of the brain. So to keep our gray matter is quite important in order to keep our mental health properly. So what we have for our research, we got 23 meditators practicing Sahaja Yoga for more than 5 years regularly. And we compared these 23 meditators with another 23 non-meditators. Both groups had the same equivalent age, same or equivalent education, same proportion of men and women, and all volunteers were healthy. And we saw 2 very important things. The first thing that we saw is that volunteers on the meditators group have 7% larger gray matter volume in the whole brain. This type of research has been done with many different populations, also with different types of meditation, with musicians, with taxi drivers, with many different populations. And in all those researches, they have shown that there are differences located in a very specific area, but those differences were not in the whole brain like it was in our case. This 7% larger gray matter in the whole brain is the largest ever published difference in gray matter volume. But not only meditators have larger gray matter volume in the whole brain, also the gray matter diminish much slower compared with the control. Here every red dot represents a volunteer. Here we have the age from 20 years to 65 years of age, and here we have the percentage on the whole brain of gray matter. So when we are 20, both groups have around 47%, almost half of the brain is gray matter. But here we have depicted the line of behavior of each group. The red is the meditators and the blue is the control. And we see that when we are around 65, on average, meditators have a 65 around 44%, and control have on average around 41% of gray matter in the whole brain. And so there are two very important data on this research. The first one, that meditators have 7% larger gray matter volume in the whole brain, and also the gray matter of meditator diminish much slower than in the control group. This research was published on this journal PLOS ONE, and it was the top most downloaded. And this last year they said to me that they sent to me a congratulation email in which they said our article was on the top 10% most cited articles that year. Not only we saw that this 7%, we reviewed the data and we were comparing on each group area by area, and we also saw that there were important significant difference, statistically significant difference in very, very important brain areas like the frontal lobes that define very much of our personality, and also in the right temporal lobe. And this also was published in the same journal PLOS ONE, this time in 2020. And this, as I already said, this is the largest gray matter difference published in a scientific journal. So this was the second type of research. So let's move to the third type of research, that is functional connectivity. Functional connectivities, we know today that different parts of the brain cooperate to enhance complex functions. So we wanted to see what's happened with this mental silence, how the different parts of the brain cooperate. So the first things we saw is that there is a specific area that is called the anterior cingulate, just a few centimeters behind our forehead, in which those meditators having larger gray matter here had also better meditation inside the magnetic resonance scanner. Here is the best type of meditation, 5, and here bad, and here is the amount of gray matter on this yellow area. And this area is very important. There are also other types of research that mention that volunteers with larger gray matter on that area tend to be happier, because this area is related with the capacity of the control of your attention and the control of your emotions. When you have the capacity to control your attention and your emotion, you tend to be happier. And also the opposite has been also published. Volunteers with less gray matter here have the tendency to enter into depression and to anxiety, because they cannot stop the ruminating negative thoughts that are all the time on their head. And we saw that this area, we wanted to see with which other area we are cooperating. And so we have that area, or that we already mentioned, the anterior cingulate, and it was cooperating with these areas here in red, that it was also again the insula for the interoception on both hemispheres. Here we see more mental silence and more cooperation with those areas, that's the insula and the right hemisphere, the insula at the left hemisphere, and there was less cooperation with the thalamus. The thalamus is an area that is known because it brings all the information from the senses, and this stopping the cooperation with the thalamus is interpreted by us Like when we are in this state of mental silence, specifically inside the magnetoresonance scanner, we stop the information from outside. We concentrate more in the inner being. For this, we should know that the magnetoresonance scanner is a very noisy instrument, and it's a little bit uncomfortable to meditate there. So you have to isolate yourself and to be inside yourself in order to reach this state of mental silence. So this study was published in this journal, Neuroscience, in 2018. And we say that Sahaja Yoga meditation and mental silence is associated with the development of neural networks and areas that are crucial for the control of attention and emotion. And this had possible positive repercussions on our health. And the last article that was published just last year, March 2021, we are measuring also functional connectivity, but in a state that is called resting state, in which we just ask volunteers just to rest and allow their mind to wander. And what we saw is that although volunteers, meditators and non-meditators were asked not to meditate, they have less wandering mind in the meditators group. So this is the research I wanted to share with you today. And let me just conclude with a resume. So frequently achieving mental silence has important and very good implications for our health. It allows us to have our attention in the here and now, and this allows us to have the integration of our body and our mind, and will allow us to be more efficient and more happier. It also improves our physical and mental health that I have already mentioned. It rejuvenates our brain related with the larger gray matter, and the gray matter diminishes slowly with age. And also it allows the improvement of our attention and the control of our emotion, which is crucial for our health, a normal mental, healthier life. And also allow us to get rid of the wandering mind. This mind that goes to the past, to the future, and is moving and without control, allowing us, this mental silence, to enjoy a happier and healthier life. So this is the main thing that I wanted to share this 10 years of our research in 10-20 minutes. I was very happy to share my research with this collaborator from different universities and also from my university. I want you to stay with us and to practice this specific and very simple. Sahaya also means simple meditation, and to reach and to enjoy the beauty of mental silence with us. So thank you very much for your attention. Arigato.